Hello, everybody. It's Lisa here from Bariatric Surgery Nutrition, your credible and specialized source for bariatric surgery nutrition care. So I'm here today because I wanted to talk about a very common question that I get, myself and other dietitians working in bariatric surgery and weight loss surgery included. And it's a question that everybody poses at one point, whether it's right after surgery or further down the line after surgery, or maybe even a few years down the line when you realize, hey, I never actually got the answer to this question. And that question is, how many calories do I need to have after surgery? And there's numbers that are tossed around. So that's what we're going to talk about right now in this short session, to talk about how many calories do you need. We're going to give you the answer to that question that's commonly asked. And how do I know how many calories? How can I figure out for myself how many calories I need? So I'm talking to you as a group, but also as an individual. So there's numbers that are tossed around. So you might say, oh, I know the answer to that question. And some people might say 800 calories, and I've heard 900 calories, and I've heard 1,000 or 1,200 calories. And it's funny because I always wonder, where do these numbers even come from? Where are people getting these numbers? So I know that they're being tossed around forums. I know that they're being tossed around Facebook pages, that this is the number and this is a fixed number that you need to be eating after surgery. But one thing that I found funny was, okay, well, does somebody really need 800 calories from right after surgery as they would need down the line after surgery, years after surgery? Where did that number come from? Is it 800 to start and then 1,200? So I did some digging to figure out over the years kind of where this was coming from. And part of it is from expert opinion. So at some point, some doctors long time ago have been bariatric surgery kind of figured that this was an approximate appropriate number. And that number tends to be 1,200. So again, expert opinion, yes, from physicians, from people with experience, but we're also going way back when bariatric surgery and weight loss surgery was very different from what it is today. But some of these numbers also came from usual intake, the average usual intake of somebody after surgery. An average usual intakes after surgery doesn't mean that is necessarily what you need. It is a rough approximation, a rough number of what people are actually able to get in. Because as you know, right after surgery, in the first few weeks, half a cup of food is more than enough. You're very full on about a half a cup of food. And then down the line, it increases to about a cup. So the intake evolves. So that 800 number is a rough approximation of what people are able to ingest and able to fit into their stomach in the early stages after surgery in the first few weeks. And that 1,200 number is a rough approximation of what somebody is able to get probably around the 6-month mark. Some might reach out at 3 months after surgery. Some might reach out at 1 year after surgery, but they're approximations of what most people are able to get to. Does that mean that is what you need as an individual? Absolutely not. That is not the case. I've challenged this number, and I find it funny that everybody seems to have the answer, yet myself as a dietitian and a specialized dietitian with experience in weight loss surgery and bariatric surgery over the years, where did these numbers come from, and why is there one fixed number that does not differentiate between being a man or a woman? Because there are metabolic differences between men and women. Why is there one fixed number that does not differentiate between age? A 20-year-old female is not going to lose is going to lose faster than a 40-year-old female. So we know that there's metabolic differences as we age. And another important component is exercise. There are people that we see that are sedentary or who have very poor, have mobility issues, who are limited to a walker, limited to a wheelchair, or their knees have just been so damaged over the years that they're more active in their daily life, but they're not physically active, out of breath, jogging or pedaling on a bike. Whereas we have other patients that who run marathons, who are doing these CrossFit challenges. So there's a wide spectrum of where some people are after surgery, and that is a reality. Yet we have this fixed number. So ultimately, the short answer is when it comes to how many calories do I need after surgery, we don't know. Okay, so that's a short answer, but I'm asking you to kind of listen a little bit more to the rest of this video to understand it, to understand further. You can very well say, well, I track my intake on the Lose It app. I track it on my Fitness Pal, and I put in my height, I put in my weight, I put in my fitness activity, and I put in my age, and it spits out a number, and that's the number that I'm targeting. And a lot of people tell me, well, that's the number that's the number of calories I eat every day because that's what my app is telling me. The important thing to know about these apps, not that these calculations are necessarily wrong for the average person. There's always a level of error, okay? So we are using these formulas that always have a level of error from anywhere between 150 even up to 350 calorie difference, meaning that it's overestimating by 150 to 350 or underestimating by 150 to 350. So that's always a possibility. But it gives a rough approximation for the average population. The problem when it comes to bariatric surgery or weight loss surgery is that the number that spits out does not account for your surgery. Okay, so it's not accounting for the metabolic changes that are happening with surgery. So when there's research and evidence that compares what these formulas tell us versus compared to what we know you actually need, and I'll explain how you can really know how you actually need afterwards. But these formulas compare what we know scientifically in a research setting, this is what someone needs. And this formula tends to overestimate early after surgery. So the number you're getting when you put that in, if you're in the first few months or in the first 6 to even 12 months after surgery, that number is likely overestimating what you actually need. And what some research has been showing is that years down the line, that number is likely underestimating what you actually need. So just to keep it short, the formulas are not exact, and that's okay. Okay, and that is fine. But it's just funny when people kind of stick to exactly that number of calories every day, and it's just, it's very uncomfortable because that number has a lot of error to it to begin with. That being said, how do we know how many calories that you actually need? I'll get to that afterwards. I'll first talk about, so I'll talk about the scientific method afterwards, but I'll talk about the realistic day-to-day way of knowing it first. So how do I know? How do I know if I'm eating enough? That's the question you need to be asking. Not so much the number in a numeric form and the number of calories that you need a day, but how do I know that I'm getting enough? And there's 3 ways of knowing that. The first way is, am I physically hungry? If you are going to bed at night and you physically feel hunger in the pit of your stomach, that's a sign that you probably are really hungry. Versus in the evening time after dinner, and you're probably watching some TV and resting in the evening time, you might feel like I'm hungry. But if that hunger is not here and it's not physical and it's more of a desire, that's very different. Okay, desire for food does not necessarily mean that I need to eat and that I'm hungry to eat. But the physical hunger that you're feeling is an important sign. So am I physically hungry? Am I waking up hungry? Is there anything that could be affecting my hunger? If I'm more stressed or if I'm mind, but am again hunger. Oh, we lost us there, but we're back again. So it's a different kind of hunger. So the appetite that you have from medication and from stress and anxiety is a different kind of hunger. But if I'm physically feeling it, that is the first question to be asking and the first checkbox to be ticking off. The second question is, how is my energy? If my diabetes is gone and my blood pressure is better controlled and my cholesterol is under control and I don't even need my CPAP anymore for my sleep apnea, but I just don't feel like I have the energy or even the stamina that I had before, if I'm feeling weaker, physically weaker, that can also be a sign that you're not eating enough, that you do need more energy. If you can't get through a day or you can't get through most of your day and you're very tired and very exhausted, doing the same things that you usually do, that may also be a sign that you're not nourishing yourself very well. So that's the second thing. How is my energy level? And the third question is my weight stable? Is my weight stable? So first off, if you're longer term after surgery, if you're a year or more out. But the other question to ask is, am I losing faster than expected? A lot of people like to lose their weight very quickly after surgery, and everybody's very excited about that. But if you're losing weight very quickly, it's likely that you're losing a lot of muscle mass or lean body mass with that, so that you are losing your muscle. So if you're losing much faster than your bariatric surgery dietitian or weight loss surgery dietitian or nurse or physician or surgeon may expect, that may be a sign that maybe we're not quite eating enough. However, if I'm also losing slower than I would expect, not so much yourself, but again, your team who has the experience to understand this, that may also be a sign that we might look into that a little bit more detail. So that being said, how do I truly know how many calories I need to keep a stable weight in the long term to achieve a good weight loss and keep stable? You may not like the answer to it because unfortunately you won't have access to this, but it's what's called indirect indirect calorimetry. Okay, so indirect calorimetry is a very reliable method of measuring how many calories you actually need yourself as an individual. Okay, today at the current weight that you're at, this is how much energy I burn. Therefore, this is the amount of energy that I need. So the way they do this is that they measure the oxygen that you put out and the oxygen you're taking in and the carbon dioxide that you're putting out. And that gives us a very good idea of how many calories that you do need. The negative side of this is that it's very expensive, extremely expensive, and it's not available to the population. It's just not available in a standard hospital setting. It's not available in a clinic setting. There may be some private clinics that offer this to measure your resting metabolic rate, which means, again, the basic energy that you need just resting at rest, not when you're running around or walking day to day. But it's extremely expensive, if that's even available, very likely not covered by healthcare or any healthcare plan. And again, it is used in a research setting. So it's realistically for anyone, any kind of individual in a hospital setting, it's just, we can't measure it. So that's why we do rely on formulas. But as we mentioned, the formulas that we typically use cannot be used for somebody who has had bariatric surgery or weight loss surgery because, again, of the overestimation in the short term and the underestimation in the long term. The other thing, so the one promising thing that you can do, but which takes a lot of commitment and a lot of dedication and a lot of measuring and weighing and being extremely precise with the food that you're eating, but is doable, is to track every single thing that you eat. Okay, and when I mean that, I mean everything, down to the drops of oil that are used in the pan that you're stir frying your vegetables in or cooking your chicken in. Extreme detail is needed. But if you track every single thing that you eat, and you do this every single day, every single meal, every bite of food, every day for 1 to 2 months, when your weight is completely stable. So this can't be done early on after surgery. That's not the time that we can be doing this. There's too much change. There's too much rapid weight loss. You're losing it way too quickly to be able to keep track of it. But if this is done when you reach around your 1-year mark and your weight is more or less plateaued, you will be able to know how many calories that you're actually eating. And if that coincides with a weight being stable over a 1 to 2 month period or even longer, that is the amount of calories that you need every day. So it's doable. It's just requires, like I said, a lot of dedication. It is very difficult to do. The number will still have some level of error because when you're jotting down what it is that you're eating, although you're weighing it and measuring it, you need to be sure the information is being properly inputted into the application that you're using. And you're choosing the exact same settings, the exact kind of cut of meat, again, with a lot of detail. But again, it will give it to you. So there is going to be some error, but it's as accurate as you can possibly get. But again, the downfall is that you do need to wait for a little bit more of a stable weight. Otherwise, by the time you calculate this, you're already 10 pounds down. Do it again, you're 10 pounds down. So you're never going to really, truly know how many calories you need until your weight is stable. So my advice and my suggestion to you is to focus on the main key questions, the 3 key questions. Am I truly physically hungry? Do I physically feel that? Number 1. Number 2, how is my physical energy? Do I have the energy that I need to get through my day? And number 3, is my weight loss on track, or is my weight maintenance? Is my weight being well maintained? Those are the 3 questions to really ask. And a dietitian can help you with that. Your healthcare professional can be helping you with that. But what helps with this is what can truly help you to understand this and be more in tune with this is what we call intuitive eating, where you're listening to your body's cues to know if I'm eating enough, if I'm eating too much, or if I'm eating just enough on a regular daily basis. So you can have the potential to measure this. Your body is a great barometer for measuring all of this, but you do need to listen to it. And that's very difficult because a lot of us have not listened to that, but it can be done. So that's that's the answer to the question. How many calories do we need every day? We don't actually know, but you have the answer. It's just learning how to understand the cues that your body is sending you and working with that. For those of you who are interested, we can work with ourselves as dietitians online with online counseling if that's really something that you can benefit from. Otherwise, Monica, my colleague, is going to be running an intuitive eating group session this spring. So that could be something that you might look forward to as well. Otherwise, if you're just watching this video and it was just information that you were curious to learn about and you might want to learn more about some of these types of questions, we do have a book that we have published, and you can view that beside this video later on. It's available on Amazon USA, on Amazon Canada, Italy, if there's any Italians watching, Italy, France, Australia, and the UK. So you can always purchase that video in the PDF form on our website or the actual hard copy form on Amazon. So I hope it wasn't too disappointing. I hope it's informative. Sometimes I feel like I'm bursting people's bubbles and giving them the information that they weren't quite expecting to have. But the whole purpose of doing this is to empower you to have the information and understand the information. There tends to be a lot of misinformation that we tend to see on Facebook and forums, which may have just been misunderstood along the way and just passed on and passed on. But ultimately, you can use your body to figure out how many calories you need. You can figure out, not in terms of a number, but in a holistic, global form. Am I eating well enough or not? Am I eating enough or not? Or am I eating too little? So that's that. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for the people who have tuned in and taken the time to listen to it. And if there's any questions that you have about what else, about any other videos that we can be making for you in the future, any questions that we can be answering and clarifying, we'd be happy to do so. Just send us a message, private message us, or respond to this video. Have a good evening, everybody.